Good evening, and welcome to Soluble. We'd like to start out this broadcast tonight by wishing each and every one a happy new year here in America, in the States, and everywhere all around the world. We'd like to say Happy New Year. Happy New Year to each and all. Welcome to the year of our Lord 2023. We're going to start off this year, getting right down to the people's business to keep you current, keep you abreast of what's going on, what's still at stake, and what lies ahead if we continue to rock the vote. Now, we know that as Democrats, we have a majority in the Senate, and of course, we have the Oval Office, and the midterms have come and gone. But we still have to always stay vigilant because we don't want a repeat of MAGAism. We know what it's like. We've been there. We've tasted it. We've experienced it. So, in order to avoid having to live through that again or taking the country through it again, which we don't even know if we can stand, another 4 years of MAGAism. That's why it's been voted out. But lo and behold, from 2016, when the former president first came on the scene, up until now, the year of our Lord now, 2023, some 7 years later, we're still being affected, feeling residual effects of the Trump effect and Trumpism. We'll get more into that in a little bit here. It's playing out right now with the speakership, and the Republicans have a majority in the House, and they can't, for whatever reason, seem to get their business in order. Can't seem to get the House in order. Their political affiliation, their party, their agenda, they can't seem to get it in order. Now, we're going to take a deep dive into some things that we feel like really, kind of shakes the core of the Democratic base just a little bit, because as I've stated on this podcast before, shortly after the midterm, Black support for Democratic voters or Democratic candidates fell off in the year 2022. So, in 2020, the percentage of the Black vote for Democrats was 14%. And come along in 2022, just 2 years later, the support level was at 8%. So that's somewhat a 6% drop. And so we want to dig into that, just a little bit to try to keep the base strong and to find out, what went wrong there, and, how, if in any way we can get those voters who strayed this time in the midterm, if we can get those voters back. Now, last year when we first came on air, we, took a deep dive, try to give you a brief lesson of history as to where the party switched from, Lincoln being a Republican, and the Republican Party being the party of Lincoln. We explained to you, where the shift came from. From Harry Truman wanting to integrate the military, and the rebellion from the Dixiecrats and the party switch. And we explained that to you. You may go back into the archives and look at some of our old footage from last year and find that. But starting this year, because we did lose some support from 2020 to 2022. We want to, really touch at the core of what we hear at Soluble. And we're trying to solve, keep in mind. We're always trying to solve for bigger numbers, for the Democratic Party, which we feel like will translate to a better, brighter future for all Americans with Democrats in control. So with that 6% point drop off, we want to touch bases on some things that we know that could be somewhat disturbing or a turnoff for African American voters in the Democratic Party. Now, cutting right to the chase and putting it all out there in an attempt to solve, because that's what we here at Soluble is all about. Um, Oftentimes, when I listen to my fellow Democratic voters, especially those of African American descent, they have a hang up with Democrats being brought about in the image to Negro voters as being a party that's in favor of entitlements. To put it more plainly, they feel like the Democrats are a party that will support welfare and wants to support welfare, which, most Negro voters in America know that that's destruction for the family. But that's a major turnoff for voters of African American descent here in America, as it relates to the Democratic Party. So we're gonna attempt to share that image, or to put it out there, our stance, so that we can let those voters know and feel like they have a voice to bring this to the forefront. Because if we're voting 90 something percentile in favor of a party, then it's ludicrous that we don't get what we want, the majority of it, in a compromising democracy. We have to get the majority of what we want. But in order to get that, we're going to have to push for it. We're going to push for legislation. We're going to have some skin in the game. We're going to have to be a part of the conversation. So, as I said, the Democratic Party, based on what we want to see in a new age Democratic Party, here at Soluble, our position is that we don't want the Democratic Party to be a party that is an entitlement, which is a fancy word to say handouts in the form of welfare, food stamps. We don't want the Democratic Party to have the image of being a party of entitlements, because we know that work is better. Work is better. And that's where, we want to firmly put our stance down and, address that as time goes by, through the days, through the months, through the year, in order to bring about a solution as to where do we go, because a lot of people are of course, we know, are really solely dependent on that type of income. So it can't be just a snatch the rug out from under them type of fix. But we here at Soluble will acknowledge that as a sticking point for Negro voters in America, we're with you. We understand. We don't want to support a party that is for entitlements before work. Let's find jobs in America that strengthens the family. Entitlement programs do nothing to strengthen families. In fact, they do just the opposite, which is to tear down families. So, with that being said, let's put our flag, let's stamp our flag down. Let's plant our flag on that. Ending entitlements as we know them, ending government handouts as we know them, that are, from the African American point of view, has been nothing but destructive overall for Black families in America. Second point, sticking point that we feel like here at Soluble, in trying to solve, in trying to bring voters back, and trying to have sway, if you will. Another sticking point for Democratic voters, Negroes in particular, is the Democrats' stance on certain social issues, such as abortion, gay rights, gay marriage, anything having to do with the LGBTQ community. A lot of Negroes in America, understandably so, it's faith based. It's what their religion tells them. It's what their religious belief, myself included, steers me away from. And as I've said before on this podcast, I'm really religiously insensitive to these issues. But here at Soluble, here is where what we've come to understand in looking at this issue. There was a time in this country, not long ago, where a person of color could easily be attacked, violated, have their rights taken away, have their rights challenged. Injustice in the justice system, injustice in the housing market, injustices all across the board. There was a time in this country that Negroes in America face these kind of discriminations and racist actions simply because they were people of color, simply because of the color of their skin. Nothing more, nothing less. Simply because of the color of their skin. So, what we've come to understand here at Soluble is that people who are a part of the LGBTQ community, these people need protections. And that's where the Democratic Party draws the line. They want to make sure that the people in this community have the same protections, rights as every other American. I mean, I wrestle with it myself that, I'm a Democratic voter, and these issues, these social issues that the Democrats support, are way out of touch with my religious beliefs. But as I said, I've come to understand that the line is drawn where it comes to protections, freedoms being granted, the same as, being a Negro in this country not long ago. The government had to step in a lot in the form of Lyndon B. Johnson's presidency to give civil rights, to give equal rights under the law, equal protections under the law. So that's where the Democrats are at when it comes to governing, when it comes to the way they feel from a legislative, executive, and or judicial point of view. It's simply for protection. And I can agree with that. I can come around to agree with that, even though I don't support the community. And we all have our rights. We all have our freedoms to believe, freedom to, express ourselves. That's what makes the country so great. So, that's it for me in a nutshell. This is not about hatred. This is not about trying to, bash anyone from the LGBTQ community. What we here at Soluble simply want to state is that this is all about rights for people, whether you agree with them or not, whether you support their views or not. This is about rights for people, which, the Constitution, it grants us that. All people living under the Constitution, on this continent are guaranteed the equal rights, protections, securities, liberties that all other Americans enjoy who are not part of the LGBTQ community. When it comes to abortion, now I have to admit again, once again, my position, my point of view when it comes to abortion, or when it came to abortion, was that it was some woman who was out for a night on the town, being promiscuous, being irresponsible, and winding up pregnant, and not wanting to have the child, not wanting to carry the child to term. Boy, was I wrong. Boy, was I so wrong. Because as a Democrat, who, once again, I'm religiously insensitive to this subject, to this topic, my faith does not take me there in no situations. My faith does not take me there in any situation. But here is where I come around, and we here at Soluble, we want to take a long look at. And this is what our decision is based on when it comes to abortion, our view. The Republicans, they put out sweeping legislation to kill Roe v. Wade and, make abortion illegal in this country. That's their goal. That's their destiny. And they're doggedly pushing it. But the trigger moment for me was when the laws came out. There were no protections for the woman for rape or incest. And that says a lot. That says a lot. Because I'm one to flip it around, analyze it, try to look at it from all sides. I mean, toss it around, spin it, whatever I got to do to try to find a solution, try to find an understanding, most of all, because the solution doesn't come before the understanding. So my understanding is that rape and incest definitely definitely should be exceptions there. And as I flipped and analyzed it, I began to think that maybe abortion wouldn't be such a big problem if we took more serious the crime of rape and incest, prosecuted more vehemently, go after the people who are doing it, make rape, make incest a serious offense. So, once again, as a Democrat, I don't feel like, we can have our cake and eat it too here. If we're going to take away a woman's right to choose, but then at the same time give her no protection from rape or incest. Once again, I spin it around, and then abortion is no longer the problem, but rape and incest is the problem. Because now I feel like, and our position here at Soluble is that if rape and incest go away, abortion would probably soon follow. Because I mean, you have to think about it. A woman's heart is one big ocean of love, and it has to take some really serious, extreme circumstances to make the woman even consider doing such a thing. So, is abortion in this country a problem, or is rape and incest in this country a problem? We have to ask ourselves that. You know, my fellow Americans, Democratic voters, Negro Democratic voters in particular, on these type of very sensitive issues that have to do with, faith, morals, character. I mean, of course, the thought of killing a baby in the womb is just totally barbaric. That's the position here at Sawyer. We feel as if it is totally barbaric. But then again, if there are extenuating circumstances that is pushing, that is, reluctantly pushing the woman to make this choice, then we're gonna take a long look at rape and incest. And that's where that's the side we come down on when it comes to, you know, the things that are supported in the Democratic Party that will turn off a lot of voters, Negroes in particular. When it comes to the LGBTQ community, gay marriage, these these people need protections. They need protection. They need to have the same protections, liberties that are guaranteed under the Constitution as every other American, whether you agree with it or not. Whether you agree with it or not. And the Republicans know this as well. Here recently we had a bill to come down, as far as marriage equality, and there was a good bit of Republicans who crossed the aisle, so they know this as well. It's not about being a party that supports it, that loves it, that wants to promote it in American society. That's not it at all. That's not where the Democrats are at when it comes to the LGBTQ community, gay marriage, and the likes. That's not where it's at. But simply put, as I said, any of the people in the LGBTQ community are men marrying men, women marrying women. The least the Democratic Party is saying that the least we can do is give them equal protection under the law, equal liberty under the law, and then let the chips fall where they may. I mean, it's been going on since the beginning of time. And, you know, those of us who believe, we know that, God will deal. God will work it out. At the end of the day, he will judge and put into the hearts of man which way we should go. And that's pretty much sums up our position here at Soluble to make a case for why, if anything, what might be the main things that are causing Democratic voters, Negroes in particular, to shift parties or to stay away from the polls altogether. So, that's it when it comes to social and or moral issues. The LGBTQ protections have liberties, rights, period. And that doesn't mean that, they're wholeheartedly supported by the Democratic Party. That doesn't mean that, their beliefs are wholeheartedly the Democratic Party's beliefs. It just means that we feel that they should have protections, the same liberties as every other American. Abortion, once again, in closing, protections. That's what it's all about. I mean, You have a woman that's already vulnerable because she's physically inferior to the strength of a man. So she definitely needs these protections. She definitely needs these protections. Little young girls, young women, these protections are needed. And that's the basis for the support. That's the basis for the support. I'm quite sure that you're not going to go out and just find a person with a Democratic Party voter affiliation, and they're just going to come right out and tell you that, yeah, I'm for killing a child in the womb. Always, there's no circumstances. There's nothing that you can tell me to sway me. If the child's in the womb and I want it dead, you know, I'm all for it. That's not the case. These are difficult decisions, ladies and gentlemen. These are difficult decisions to be made by a woman, her husband, and her physician. And that's where, it should begin and end. But at the end of the day, these are difficult decisions. And as I said, I admit it. I've been the ignorant one. I've been the one to think that this is just a woman behaving recklessly, carelessly, and winds up pregnant, and now she doesn't want anything to do with it. And I apologize, to all women in America, women of the world. You know, it's not easy. And I get that. It's not easy being a woman. So, like I said, as far as my ignorance, I apologize. I support the woman's right to choose. And, with that being said, our position here at Soluble is that, we would hope that they would always choose life. We would hope that there would not be a situation where they would want to choose to terminate a pregnancy before the child is born. So that's it, pretty much in a nutshell, where we've tried to bring about a discussion when it comes to sticking points that people may have, especially people of color, when it comes to voting for the Democratic Party here in America versus the Republican Party. Those are the two main things, the two main issues that overall are a lot have to do with the sticking point when it comes to Negroes in America voting Democrat. And so, you know, starting this year, at some point in time, we're going to open up the invite box. We're going to open up our window of discussion and bring in people by invite to discuss these issues. Whether it be male, female, whatever race, creed, or color. We're all Americans, and the solution lies in all of us putting our heads together to come up with what's best for all, as far as a party governing and trying to move the country forward. Because we know, of course, we'll never get Republicans. Well, they say never, but right now, in the foreseeable future, it doesn't seem as if we'll get the Republicans to come around to that way of thinking, because they have put out this draconian, very outdated point of view to not even protect the woman, or make an exception for rape or incest, and that's just unheard of. It's outrageous for a woman not to have those protections, which could serve as a deterrent to rape. It could serve as a deterrent to incest, which will, have it to the point where an abortion is not even in the question. So we're going to close with that. That's our belief. That's our feel here at Soluble as to why the Democratic Party supports the LGBTQ community and a woman's right to choose. These are for protections for these people, for liberties, rights that are guaranteed to all, no matter what their sexual affiliation is, and no matter what situation they may find themselves in, with a difficult pregnancy. But as I said, we'll debate those issues, further down the line as to, people who may still have reservations, doubts, questions, or you want to bring up anything for debate to have an opinion contrary to what we've just stated here at Soluble. So, if you could stomach that, if you can do like we here at Soluble have done to be able to get an understanding that, of course, we don't agree with it, but our party supports it because the people need protections. They need equal protection under the law. And that's where it begins and that's where it ends. And, once we discovered that, then we had an understanding as to why the Democratic Party has wrapped their arms around the LGBTQ community and women who want to have a right to choose. Okay. So now that we got that out the way, what we feel like here at Soluble is two of the main sticking points, because we would like to woo those voters, that 6% that left in 2022. We would like to woo them back. And we put it out there before. Here we are, a new year. Republicans are in control of the House. They're in control of the House. Now, we've had all this, as you were, they've had all this past year to get themselves together, to prepare for the red wave, and to be able to govern off of the red wave. Now, even though they did not see the red wave manifest itself, they were still able to eke out a majority in the House of Representatives. And what happens? The first day of being in control, being in charge, here we have the Republicans in the House holding a vote for the speakership. And we're having to adjourn, the House is having to adjourn with no speaker elected on the third ballot, and for the would-be the minority leader McCarthy, who's trying to be speaker, he's conceded a number of things, and it still is not good enough for the 19 to 20 holdouts that are stopping him from being elected the next speaker of the House. Now, what does this tell us as the American people? As I said, the Republicans have had all of last year to get their house in order, to get their party in order to go about doing the people's business once they won a majority. Now here we are. And it's time for the rubber to meet the road when it comes to governorship. And what do we see? Disarray, confusion, indecisiveness. After a year of campaigning as to what they would do to make this country better, to bring down inflation, to lower prices at the pump, prescription drug prices, to deal with climate change. And here they are with a slim majority, in the House. And from what they tell me, the word on the street is that selecting a speaker, that's the easy part of the job. The real roll up your sleeves and get the work part is bringing bills to the floor for a vote, bills that the American people can appreciate. But now we look, how can the Republican Party and the Republican people expect us to trust what they're doing for the people's house when they can't even get their own house in order? They failed to select the Speaker of the House on the third ballot. And it looks like there's no end in sight. You have new members ready to be sworn in, bringing their family members, bringing their children. And lo and behold, here's the Republican Party right out the gate being the party of ineptitude, the party of uncertainty. As I said, indecisiveness. So, I know Democratic voters are, they're taking a long look at this. But to the Republican voter out there, it's time to take an even a longer look. Is this what governorship is going to look like for the next 2 years until we go into the 2024 election cycle? We're thankful for, a system of checks and balances because of this. Because of this. I mean, as I said, can you imagine someone, coming to you and telling you, what you should do to get your house in order when this person or this party can't even get their own house in order? And they've had plenty of time. They've had plenty of time to get it together. What is going on? Hopefully, we can get the Republican Party to come forth and, level with the American people. Be straight up. But right now, this is what's going on. It's a party that can't seem to get its act together. Now, what we here at Soluble feel as if, we know what some of their priorities are. To let them tell it, to, try to tame spending, out of control spending in Washington. Bring forth sound economic legislation, blah, blah. We've heard it all. We've heard it all. But here at Soluble, we believe that between what they've said, as far as to make life better for the everyday American people, and what they've said as far as investigations and oversight and subpoena power, our position here at Soluble is that this is where they're torn. This is where they're torn. And if they can't seem to get it together to be able to come together and unanimously elect Minority Leader McCarthy for Speaker of the House, then that tells me that there may be some indecisiveness within the party as to whether they should be even doing anything as ludicrous as coming right out of the gate trying to do something like, just say, for instance, a Hunter Biden investigation. At Soluble, we believe that this is a sign of a party that's not sure if that's the direction that they should go in. And if that is the case, as to why the speaker is having trouble getting the required number of votes to wield the gavel, if he's having trouble coming up with the required number of votes, maybe, just maybe, some in the Republican Party already know that there's nothing there when it comes to Hunter Biden. These far-reaching investigations that lead to nothing, to nowhere, to nobody, and it's just a waste of taxpayers' money. This divide when it comes to the speakership, which, as I said, should be something simple. We haven't seen nothing like this in 100 years. So why now? With a party that's claimed all last year before the midterms, they were just, as soon as the vote was held, they're ready to get about with the people's business. They're ready to govern from a point of fiscal conservatism, government responsibility, accountability. And they can't even elect the Speaker of the House to lead them and to lead the American people in the way that, is best for the country. They've been elected. They've been elected in a majority. And it's time to lead. It's time to govern now. But what? Confusion. As I said, indecisiveness. A party that has it together and is ready to govern on behalf of America, for the betterment of America, doesn't come out stuttering, doesn't come out, so clumsily like this. What's going on? Now we're going to stay on it. We're going to keep you informed and keep you abreast. right now, one of the major sticking points is should we concentrate on oversight, investigations, looking back into things surrounding the 2020 election, or should we move forward with something anew and really pay attention to what the American people are saying and govern, write bills, bring bills to the floor from that point of view, from that perspective, from the perspective of true Republican constituents, not people who have been emboldened with power to ignore their constituents and go back to yesterday's news. And this, we feel here at Soluble, this is the main reason for the sticking point that's going on right now with the Republican Party. So, Republican voters, you have to come on. When we open up the invite later on in the year, we welcome you to come on and explain to the American people why we are seeing this type of indecisiveness right here at the critical juncture. Right here when it's time to roll up your sleeves and get to work on behalf of the American people. This party is out of touch. And it's evident. It's evident. They're out of touch with the mainstream, even of Republican voters. Because, they don't know if they want to go back, like I say, and relitigate the 2020 election. Hunter Biden. These things are all contrary. These things are all for a backwards thinking American. And here's the Republican Party with a slim majority in the House, and for whatever reason, as strange as it is, the American people have elected them to move the country forward. And here they are taking 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. And so, something that we haven't seen in 100 years is coming to bear now. And it speaks volumes to the point of how the Republicans just don't have it together. But they want to govern us. They want to have a majority to write bills that will move America forward. Well, it remains to be seen. Because right now they can't even do something as simple as move the speakership forward. This should have been over with today. You have little kids in the chamber, growing impatient. Who is the alternative to Minority Leader McCarthy? Who is the alternative? What do they want? So it begs the question. It begs the question from the right side of the aisle. The left is united. The left side of the aisle is united for working class Americans, for the economy, protections for our military and veterans. We're united in our stance, in our beliefs, for middle class America. Where do the Republicans stand? You got 20 over here. You got 200 some odd over there. But what you don't have is enough solidly behind one Speaker of the House. For that person, he or she, to be able to take the gavel today and begin a new era of leadership. Start off a new year, bringing forth bills, forming committees, setting up committees, and getting ready to write bills, legislate on behalf of a forward move in America. Now here they are. The campaign is over. The election is over. It's time to govern now. Why are they so clumsy? Let's hope tomorrow Let's hope tomorrow, God willing, that they can unanimously get behind their choice for Speaker of the House. And our position here is soluble. Of course, we're firmly Democrat. Of course, we're staunchly in the Democratic corner. But this is no good for the American people when you put country over party, which is what we here at Soluble will do every time. And we show proof of that because we call Democrats out. We hold Democrats accountable just as well, just as quick as we will the Republicans. Just as quick. As I said, we're not spinning. We're not here once again for likes, for retweets. When we're blessed to have our first guest, there will be no spinning. If there's a question to be debated, negotiated, and there's a question on the topic, on the subject, we won't allow spin. We won't allow a person to duck or to dodge, because that's not the way that we get to the solution. And that's what we're all about here at Soluble, is a solution. At the end of the day, we're about a solution. And if we can't get that for the American people, then we don't need to be here. Because I said this is not for likes or retweets. This is to keep America moving forward. That's our mission here at Soluble. Is to keep America moving forward and never go back again into anything that closely resembles Trumpism or the MAGA rights. So, as I said, it remains to be seen. We will hope tomorrow that they could conform, that they'll form a consensus, rally behind one candidate, and let's get on with the business of governing for the American people. They're in the House. They have the majority now. So we need to know how they feel about funding the war in Ukraine, climate change, energy independence, crime, what they're going to do to strengthen the economy. We need to know these things. And the longer it takes them to select the speaker is, the longer it takes before we find out which direction that they're going to be taking the country in. And so, here we are. Here we are. It's time to govern. It's time to get on with the people's business. And we're left waiting. We're left waiting. Like a groom at the altar who's been stood up by the bride, or vice versa. We're left waiting. Now we hope tomorrow that, it'll be a better day in the House for Republicans as well as Democrats. Because as I've said, as the American people, we have to take a long look at this to see if and how effective the Republican leadership can be when it comes to governing. Because look how much time has elapsed. Look how much time has passed. This is a party divided. This is a party divided. When we're at the critical juncture where it's time to govern. Where it's time to govern. Save the fighting for the campaign. Save the dueling words, the mudslinging. Save it for the campaign. But here we are with an inner party squabble for power. This is, not what we signed up for. This is not what we were led to believe during the campaign season. And, so here we are. To my fellow Americans, Negro voters in particular, the 6% who left us this time around in this election cycle, to that 6%, is this what you signed up for? And if not, We invite you to come on. We invite you to come on here at Soluble as we open up the invite window to tell us how we got here and how we can move on from it. I mean, we suspected, after the midterm, during the course of the midterm, there may be trouble, that the speaker didn't have the votes to be able to wield the gavel as Speaker of the House. No one wants it to be true. People are holding their bated breath, hoping that, the Republicans will get it together by the time January the 3rd rolls around. So we can get on with the business of the people. This is the people's house. And here we have elected officials who have sworn, who have campaigned, who have promised to make their lives better through whatever bills, whatever legislation they feel necessary. And now the clock is ticking. The day has come and gone. We're heading into January the 4th, and we still don't have a Speaker of the House. And until we get that, we can go no further. We can't move forward with bills, with committee assignments. And this is supposed to be the easy part, ladies and gentlemen, to come together and summon 218 votes so that a speaker can be selected. This is supposed to be the easy part. So, as I said before, that's what we're here at Soluble is all about. Never fear, Soluble is here. And our goal is to keep you abreast and help try to point you in the right way to the solution. Now, as I said, the votes have been cast, and here we are waiting on the Republicans to make a move after the easy part. But here we are in the 11th hour, and they're fumbling the easy part. They're fumbling, they're botching it because they don't have it together. They can't decide which way they want to go when it comes to governance. Some want investigations, some don't. Some want to push out subpoenas, some don't. And it's because they all know, deep down inside, they all know that this is just political gamesmanship. And so they're stuck with the question. They're stuck with this lingering doubt, the agony of, should we do everything to turn down our opponents for 2024, or should we get to work doing the business of the American people? And as 2024 gets closer, then we begin to go into like campaign mode and govern at the same time. These people should be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. The vast majority of them are college educated. They should be able to walk and chew gum at the same time, but they just can't get it together. They can't get out of their own way, as evidenced by what you see today in the House chamber. They can't get out of their own way and do something so simple as to rally behind a unanimously chosen speaker. Because until that happens, we can't proceed with the people's business. And so here you have it, folks. Here you have it. It seems just like yesterday when they were on the campaign trail talking about all the wonderful things that they were going to do for America and the American people to move us forward, to keep us at a position of strength. And what do we got on day one? Fumbling, bumbling, stumbling. So what confidence can we have? So what confidence can we have when here we are dealing with a party that's in the majority and they're not sure whether they want to govern or if they want to investigate. And we spoke to you about this last year before the election, whether it was going to be investigations or legislation. And here we are. Here we are. And it's time to get on with the people's business. And they're stuck. They're stuck. And if they're in the majority and they're stuck, then we, the American people, are stuck. And this is not what they led us to believe on the campaign trail. But more than that, it should be alarming to us as Americans, whether you vote Republican or Democrat. It should be alarming that here you have a party that's in power and they can't come up with a uniform way to govern, what to govern on, where to take the American people. How can this be? That here you have a party that knows that the definition of stupid is to try the same thing over and over and over and over again and expect a different result. But here they are. They don't know whether to keep Trumpism going or to move forward. They don't know whether to look back at the 2020 election or move forward towards 2024. But one thing they do know is that they can't have it both ways. They can't have their cake and eat it too there. So thus the confusion. Thus the confusion. So, our position here at Soluble is to keep you informed. And this is the reason why. Because we could fall back into the same political mosh pit, if you will. The same political wallowing in the mire, if you will, that we seen just 3-4 years ago. And our intention here at Soluble, our goal is to move America forward and help you, the American voter, to be informed as to why the Democratic Party is the best party of the two to move the country forward towards a bigger, better, and brighter tomorrow. You see the list of accomplishments. We're gonna take a dive into it some more, as the week progresses. But you see the list of accomplishments that's happened in the Biden administration. You see the accomplishments that happened in the Trump administration. It's time to govern now. And as I said, I can't state it enough. We have a party in the majority, a party, which is small in comparison to a country. So we have a small party, want to govern a big country, and they have no direct agenda. They have no direction. And it's evident because of what happened today. Here you have a person vying for the speakership, and he can't get it on the third ballot. He can't get it on the third ballot. And from by all accounts, Minority Leader McCarthy wants to keep on with the vote. He wants to keep just ram it forward. This is going to begin to agitate and irritate people more than what they already are. So, wiser heads prevailed, and of course they adjourned. They adjourned for the day. And we'll wait and see what happens tomorrow. But from a Democratic point of view, we're here. We're ready to work across the aisle to see, what bills the Republicans want to bring forth with the new majority on behalf of the American people. But we're here united. If Minority Leader McCarthy is not ready, if his party's not ready to promote it, if they can't get it together, we have Representative-elect from New York, Jeffries. We have Hakeem Jeffries. He's ready. He's grounded. He knows what's best for the American people. He knows what direction to move in as far as taking America in the way of prosperity, strength, security here at home, protection for the environment. He already knows. So We have an alternative, but of course, we're not in the majority in the House, and that's something that you, the American people, have to take a long look at. We have an agenda. We're united, and we're ready to move forward with said agenda from a democratic point of view. But we're in the minority based on the last election and the American vote. So those those voters, whether it be independent, Republican, whether it was a Democrat that crossed the aisle, okay, you have the majority now. You have it now. So what? Don't keep us waiting. Don't keep us waiting. But you can best believe that it looks bad. It looks bad in the country when you have the minority ready to lead, ready to govern, and here you have the majority that doesn't have a clue. They've been put in a position of power. They've been put in a position to say, okay, we want to try your way. So we're going to give you a majority. Okay, go, take off. And here they are, right out of the gate when they're supposed to be taking off and their wheels are spinning. But not on the Democratic side. We're locked in. We have traction. We're ready to proceed forward. So it remains to be seen. But best believe, if the Republicans can't get their house in order, then we on the left, the Democrats, we have our man, Hakeem Jeffries, a proven leader with experience, knows how to work across the aisles and get things done on behalf of the American people. He's already tried and true. He's been tested and he's passed. He's more than qualified. So, we want to leave you with that tonight. This is what's going on right now today in American politics. And we, in the Democratic Party, here's our chance. We have the power now and we can keep it. But we have to give the American people a reason to vote, and we have to show them that the people that we put in office now are doing the things that we sent them to do. But we're going to need help. We're going to need help to push these politicians, these office holders. We're going to need help to push them from a Democratic point of view, whether it's writing letters, whether it's calling. We're going to all have to get skin in the game. We see the alternative. We're not happy about it because at the end of the day, we're all Americans and nothing gets done. It's not working on the better behalf of any one group of people. Republicans, Democrats. It's not working until the majority can come together, select a speaker. That is the beginning. Without a speaker, there can be no business, no bills, nothing written or getting done in the people's house until we elect the speaker. That's the first order of business. Something simple, something mundane. And the Republicans can't, up to this point, they can't get it done. So, we'll see what happens tomorrow. We know that, there was 3 votes cast today, and we don't have a Speaker of the House yet on those 3 ballots that were cast today. The Republicans came up empty, and it's on them. They have the majority. They have the power to wield the gavel or pass the gavel or take Minority Leader McCarthy out of the picture and appoint someone else for the speakership. So, we're gonna take a look at this, and see how long it plays out, how it plays out. But it does the American people, no matter what your political affiliation is, no matter what the political affiliation, it does us no good when the Republicans come out spinning their wheels as they did today. So unorganized. Can't seem to, rally behind a clear speaker for a clear agenda for the American people. So, here's the new year, And this is what we have going on as far as the people's business. Trying to select a Speaker of the House. Something that, for the past 100 years has been pretty much a given, pretty much a simple vote, pretty much a one-day event. Pretty much a one-day event for the past 100 years. The gavel has been passed. And the House proceeds with conducting the business of the American people. We don't know how long they'll keep us waiting, but we're going to hold them to everything that they've said on the campaign trail. All the negative things they've said about the Democrats and what we're trying to get accomplished. And now it's time for them to govern. And now it's time for them to govern. We know that they're good. They're great. Matter of fact, they're great at criticizing everything that the Democrats do. Downcasting almost every bit of legislation or bills that the Democrats bring to the floor. They're good at that. They're good at that. Not being the party in power and, pointing the finger at the party that is in power. Or even when they are in power, pointing the finger at the Democrats to say how bad they are for the country. Well, lo and behold, at least the Democrats can rally behind the speaker, make a decision on that simple thing, and get started going about the business of the American people. So they right there as Democrats, we one upped you already, Republicans, and the ball is in your court. So what are you going to do? It remains to be seen. That's going to conclude our podcast for tonight. The new year, and getting on with the people's business. Here we are, starting out, with a fresh majority, a new party in control, and this is where we're at this point in time in the new year 2023, and when it comes to the people's business. So we'll see what happens tomorrow, and we'll bring it to you, factual based, opinion based, but as much fact as we can, because we know that that's what the American people value, and that's our goal here at Soluble, is to take away all the misinformation, all the second guessing, all the doubt, so you'll know, what the issues are, and you can make a, informed decision on how you want your vote to come down on the side of any given issue. So we look forward to keeping you informed and bringing you the daily, weekly political happenings here in America in order to try and prevent anything resembling Trumpism from ever occurring again. So that's going to do it for our broadcast here tonight at Soluble. We thank you for joining us. We look forward to, continuing the conversation. We have a fresh start into the year, and, we look forward to bringing it to you from both sides, from both points of view. Because when you're here at Soluble, we're always trying to bring about a solution to end political partisanship, bickering, polarization, or anything of the sort, to get the business of the people done for the betterment of our lives and the betterment of America as a country on a whole. This is Soluble. We thank you for joining us tonight, and we're signing off. Until we meet again, this is Soluble saying good night and God bless.